Hey, what's up, guys? It's Nerd Reels, and welcome to my channel. Here we're going to explore movies and TV shows that I think are worth discussing. This is meant to get all you guys in conversation with one another in the comment section and get some discourse going on. I started this channel because I'm really passionate about movies and TV shows. Good movies and TV shows. And I think it's worth discussing and putting my own thoughts out there. So without further ado, let's get into it. Interstellar is one of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time. You know what? I take it back. It's one of the greatest cinematic pieces of all time. And I'll explain it by breaking it down into categories. One of the obvious things that helps create a great movie is the plot. Here we got Joseph Cooper, a father of two, and is a former NASA pilot with an engineering background. Due to global famine caused by blight, Cooper is forced to become a farmer. Students are discouraged from studying space exploration, claiming that historical events like the moon landing was fake and that NASA was shut down because it was thought to be a waste of money and resources. Cooper doesn't really have a strong connection with his kids, more specifically Murph, and often disregards what she says or ignores her. At one point, Murph claims a ghost is communicating to her through her bookshelf, which Cooper dismisses. Later, dust particles are formed in a weird pattern all over Murph's bedroom floor. Cooper studies the pattern and discovers a coded message leading him to a secret government facility where he meets Professor Brand, who explains that NASA was not shut down, but rather has been secretly funded by the government to explore other planets to live on. Brand claims to be working on a gravity equation to make this mission possible and asks Cooper to pilot a craft. Cooper agrees and pilots scientist Romilly Doyle and Brand's daughter Amelia on the Endurance. What I really like about this plot is that despite it having been done several times, it was done with a twist. Yes, we've seen movies about life on other planets, like The Martian and so on, but what I admire so much about Interstellar is just how it was done. Earth is becoming inhabitable, crops are dying, and we need to find another place to live. There are things about Interstellar that are just unexplainable in the plot, and is presented in a way where it doesn't need explaining, it just becomes accepted. Like how the wormhole by Saturn was just placed there. We don't know who did it, and it was never explained in the movie. The other beings that placed the wormhole there are just referred to as they, or that they put it there. Or how did Cooper end up in Murphy's bookshelf? No idea. But they brought him there so he can communicate with his daughter. What I also like about Interstellar's plot is just how much more realistic it is in terms of being a sci-fi. The science behind it is so accurate in theory because the director, Christopher Nolan, brought in theoretical physicist Kip Thorne to help with the science of the black holes and wormholes. Just how insane is that? Christopher Nolan, I feel, is one of the most underrated directors out there. While some directors out there get awards for basic storylines, Nolan's movies rarely get any. He isn't an egotistical director. He doesn't care about the awards or the praise. He's just passionate about his work and he puts so much thought into what he puts out there. And then there's fans like me that think he deserves every award in every category, but you know what? That's just me. Nolan also is one of the few directors out there that actually wants his work to be as realistic as possible. It's not like Interstellar itself is 100% realistic, but at least the scientific theory behind it can be realistic. He's also one of the few directors that tries to use as little CGI as possible and travel to locations that feel otherworldly. Man's Ice Planet was filmed at a glacier in Iceland, where most of the shots were filmed including Miller's planet. The crew even built lifelike, responsive set pieces to add realism to the scenes, and they also took the time to actually build and bring life-size spaceship rigs to film. I don't know how for some people this movie just goes over their head. So much time and effort went into finding these locations and to actually make it feel like it's otherworldly. Not only does it feel otherworldly, but Nolan makes sure that the actors know that too. Nolan got the actors into that immersive experience by traveling to all these locations and getting them into real spacesuits. You'll notice how the glass on the spacesuits fog up and get humid. Another thing that I like about this movie is that all of that attention to detail is so obvious. For this film, an FX design company was asked to create the spacesuit helmets for Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, and the other actors. The helmets had to be fully functional for the duration of the shoot, and not just to look good on camera, but also to just be as functional as possible. They were also asked to create the spacesuit backpacks, which housed air cooling systems. Fan cooling systems integrated into each pack sent air through the tubes to the helmets, cooling the actors. All of that was up to 40 pounds that the actors had to carry, and I don't know about you, but I would much rather have been carried around by Case. Which brings me to my next point. Case and TARS were inspired by HAL 9000 from Space Odyssey 2001, which also inspired Interstellar. TARS and his fellow Marine Corps tactical robots are all 200-pound puppets carried around by an actor. Bill Irwin, the voice actor for TARS, actually carried the puppet around set. Digital effects were added later for a few select scenes and to clean up any instances of Irwin in the film. Paul Franklin said, Nolan started talking about TARS very early on in pre production, and I said, well, what is this robot going to look like? And he said, well, I don't want it to be a sort of conventional idea of what a robot should look like. He didn't want it to make it look like just like a mechanical mat, which is typically what happens with robots in science fiction films. They should be sort of a machine analog of a human being. At the same time, he wanted the thing to have a real level of physical reality to it. Franklin's visual effects team spent a lot of time trying to figure out how TARS was going to move, fold his arms, and do other things, including running. Interstellar came out in 2014, and one of its well known musical pieces is Hans Zimmer's Mountains and Cornfield Chase. Almost a whole decade later, these songs are still going around and being played, and especially became popular on TikTok. One of the biggest trends on there were people showing off their piano skills while playing these pieces. Anna Lapwood, an organist and conductor, even recorded herself playing Cornfield Chase on the very same organ that was used for Interstellar. This 1926 four manual Harrison and Harrison organ can be found at London's Temple Church and was played by musical director Roger Sayer for the recording. According to Hans Zimmer, the organ was chosen specifically for its science. However, Nolan asked Zimmer to write some music before he'd even written the script. He said, so I played to him without looking at him. You can see him on the couch behind me. He's sitting on the couch. So I was not facing him, and I got to the end and I said, so what do you think? And he's just leaning back and goes, suppose I better make the movie. And I'm going, what is the movie? Because he never told me what it was going to be about. I mean, can you imagine just creating a whole movie just based off the soundtrack? That's why the music is so important and why this movie is such a masterpiece. The music itself was so otherworldly, had such an impact on Nolan that he created a whole movie. Now, when you tie in every aspect, the plot, the realism, the soundtrack, you are immersed into this movie and you start to feel like you're on a journey with these characters. You feel like you're actually there. And that's the point. You feel, and that's what Interstellar does to you. And that's why I think it's just one of the most underrated, most amazing cinematic pieces that was ever to be released. Honestly, I might be crazy. I don't know. But if you guys agree with me, give me a like, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the comments below.